I'm going to give you a little bit of a history on beer in general and home brewing. Beer brewing dates back to prehistory, to Mesopotamia and probably even prior to that. I've got a little theory myself where somewhere in wherever it is, Africa, Middle East, somebody harvested a basket full of grain, set it on top of a vase or bucket of some sort. It rained, the grain sprouted a little bit, they dried, it rained again, and the liquid in the bucket or the vase fermented. They smelled it, smelled pretty good, decided to drink it, and that was most likely the invention of beer. Let's skip ahead a few thousand years. Beer has always been brewed at home. Homebrew is the most ancient form of brewing, and that's what we're going to be doing today. A few little tidbits that you can look up, but they're absolutely factual. The Mayflower, one of the main reasons they landed on Plymouth Rock was because, and it's in the captain's log, they were out of beer. If they weren't out of beer, then who knows, the Mayflower may have ended up in Florida or in the Caribbean somewhere, and history would have been quite a bit different. All of our founding fathers were brewers. There's been a brewery at the Capitol and the White House since their inception. Thomas Jefferson pushed for a national brewery, National Brewing Company, which was since shot down, but our country was basically founded on beer. Whenever they had the meetings, the Continental Congress, prior to that, they would meet over a tankard of beer. They weren't drinking Coca-Cola or wine. It was beer that founded the country, basically. Skip ahead to 1979. 1979 is when Jimmy Carter signed into law making homebrew legal. Prior to that, from Prohibition to 1979, homebrewing was basically illegal. And what we mean by illegal, it was on the books as being illegal. If you go back to Prohibition, Prohibition by law prohibited the manufacture, sale, and distribution of alcohol. Now, they worded it very vaguely on purpose, so possession of alcohol was actually not legal, or I'm sorry, not illegal, as long as you weren't producing, selling, or distributing. So if you had cases of booze in your house, perfectly legal, you could consume it, you just couldn't bring it out of the house, sell it, distribute it, manufacture it. It was kind of an unwritten rule that home brewing was, let's say it wasn't criminalized, to the point where to survive, some breweries would produce malt extract and sell it, the liquid malt extract, in a can, and on the can itself it would say, do not mix with 5 gallons of water, do not bring to a boil, do not add hops, and by all means do not add yeast and ferment, or this will create alcohol, which is currently illegal. That was one of their ways to get around producing malt during Prohibition, and that kept home brewing going during Prohibition and after. Kept the craft alive up until 1979, when Jimmy Carter signed the law into action. Prior to that, wine was legal to make at home. For whatever reason, they skipped beer. Around that time is when the godfather of homebrewing, Charlie Papazian, began writing manuals on how to homebrew. He was in and around Denver and Boulder, and he was teaching classes on home brewing. And in those days, your ingredients were few and far between, and some of the original recipes were, to today's standards, wouldn't be considered very drinkable. Malt extract, there was only one or two brands. Actually, Pabst Blue Ribbon was one of the leaders in malt extract. Again, going back to Prohibition, that kind of kept them alive during Prohibition. Very rudimentary. Basically, took a couple of cans of malt extract, dumped it in some water, brought it up to heat to sanitize the water, and then a 5-pound bag of sugar and some baker's yeast, because that was about all that was available. Of course, now there are many different malt extracts available, either dried or liquid. Hundreds, if not more, hop varieties are available to the home brewer and professional brewer alike, as well as all sorts of ingredients. As far as a home brew system, you could spend as little as $50 on a prepackaged 2.5 gallon, 5 gallon system, or into the tens of thousands of dollars for some of the rims and herm systems that are completely automated. You set them up in your garage, you put grain in one end, and eventually beer comes out the other end, and you don't have to lift a finger. To me, that's not as much fun. I like dabbling in the minutia of the brewing process.